When the photographer called me that morning, I didn't know what to expect. His voice was hesitant, almost trembling, and that's never a good sign. "Mr. Harris," he said, I noticed something disturbing in the wedding photos." I paused, listening carefully, and then asked, almost too calmly, "Disturbing? What do you mean?" He explained that while editing the photos from my daughter's wedding, something had caught his eye, a series of candid shots that revealed more than they should. At first, I felt a knot tighten in my chest. My daughter's wedding had been perfect, meticulously planned, and I had been there, present for every moment. Yet these photos, in the hands of someone I trusted, were showing me a truth I wasn't ready to see. I didn't panic, I didn't call anyone in anger. I simply thanked him and hung up. That was my first moment of realization. Sometimes, the world shows you its unfairness quietly, like a shadow slipping across the floor. You don't need to react immediately. You need patience. I had been a man who once suffered injustice, and I had learned the value of silent observation. When I finally looked at the photos myself, I noticed subtle details. My son-in-law, Michael, lingering a little too long with other women, his hand resting where it shouldn't have been, his smile a little too practiced. Linda, my daughter, radiant in her gown, completely unaware of the glances, the whispers, the lies that had already begun to weave themselves into her new life. And in that moment, I knew I had two choices: confrontation driven by emotion, or strategy driven by calm. I chose the latter. I had always been a quiet man. I ran a small but successful advertising firm in the suburbs of Chicago, surrounded by people who respected me for my work ethic and integrity. My family was my pride: my daughter Linda, my son Daniel, and my late wife, who had taught me the quiet power of dignity. After she passed, I had focused on building stability, creating a life that was secure and calm. Linda had met Michael at college. Charming, handsome, and confident, he was the kind of man who could win over anyone in a room. I liked him at first. Every father wants to believe the best of his daughter's choice. He was articulate, polite, even funny. But over time, little things started to worry me. He would disappear for hours without explanation, make excuses I couldn't quite accept, and avoid certain family gatherings. Yet, I had no proof, only intuition, and intuition is a dangerous thing to act upon without patience. The wedding itself was a lavish affair: flowers, lights, a classical string quartet. Linda was radiant. Michael smiled constantly, his eyes hiding something only a man who knows he's being watched could conceal. Everyone celebrated, laughed, and danced, unaware that the smallest camera angles, the tiniest gestures, could reveal a deeper truth. The photographer, Jonathan, had been with us for years. He was meticulous, silent, almost invisible at events, yet always noticed what most people missed. That's why his call mattered. When he spoke of something disturbing, I knew it wasn't imagination. It was evidence. And I also knew, quietly, firmly, that this was my moment to act with wisdom, not emotion. Over the following weeks, I began piecing together the story the photos were telling. Michael had a habit of sneaking moments of attention toward other women, not out of love, but of entitlement. There were glimpses of him whispering, laughing too closely, hands brushing against shoulders that weren't Linda's. The evidence was subtle, almost cinematic in its quiet deceit. I didn't confront him. Not yet. I watched. I let my observation sharpen. I spoke to the photographer occasionally, asking questions without revealing my awareness of the full truth. I learned names, places, times, habits. It became clear that Michael had cultivated a network of lies, all meant to paint him as the perfect husband while he secretly undermined everything he promised. The cruelest moment came at a family dinner. Michael smiled at Linda across the table, but I noticed the quick glance he gave his old friend, Vanessa, a woman who had clearly been part of his deception. He thought no one could read him. But I could. I felt a quiet anger rise, but I didn't speak. I didn't act rashly. Instead, I began documenting everything. Dates, times, phone calls, photos, casual observations, a ledger of quiet truths that would speak louder than my words. I made sure to keep it separate from my daily life, hidden in a place no one would think to check. Every small betrayal, every subtle manipulation, was recorded. I also observed Linda, my daughter, more closely. She was blissfully unaware, completely trusting. Her joy, her laughter, her belief in Michael's perfection, it was all beautiful and fragile. My protective instinct battled with my desire for justice. I had to be careful. One wrong move, and I could ruin her happiness prematurely. I had to be patient. The turning point came one rainy afternoon. Jonathan, the photographer, called again. "I think you need to see these edits," he said. This time, he sent me a private gallery. As I scrolled, I noticed a pattern. Michael's behavior wasn't random. It was consistent, calculated, deliberate. He had cultivated multiple relationships under the guise of charm, each one carefully compartmentalized, hidden behind the perfect husband mask. I realized I didn't need confrontation. I didn't need anger. I needed strategy. Michael's own hubris would become his undoing. I decided to act indirectly. First, I ensured Linda remained protected. Subtle advice, encouragement of her independence, her intuition. I didn't plant doubt, I nurtured awareness. Next, I contacted a few of Michael's acquaintances, carefully phrasing questions and observations. Curiosity and quiet concern are powerful. Without my direct involvement, the truth began to surface in his own circle. People noticed inconsistencies, whispers started, trust eroded. Then I waited. Months passed. Michael grew careless. The network of lies he had relied upon began to collapse. Vanessa, sensing exposure, confronted him. Old friends and colleagues began noticing contradictions. His charm no longer masked deceit. I never once interfered directly. I let events unfold naturally. My role was observation, guidance from the shadows, ensuring that the truth was inevitable. It was a quiet moral revenge, one that didn't stain my hands with anger but instead used patience and intelligence to restore balance. Finally, the day came when Linda learned the truth herself. She confronted Michael, armed not with my words, but with her own observations, strengthened by my subtle guidance. The confrontation was quiet, calm, devastating in its clarity. Michael stumbled, angry, ashamed, powerless. He had built a fortress of lies, only to watch it crumble under the weight of his own arrogance. Linda was heartbroken, of course, but she was strong. She thanked me later, though she never knew the full extent of my orchestration. And I didn't need her to know. Watching her reclaim her dignity, seeing her grow stronger, was justice enough. Michael tried to apologize, tried to explain, but words cannot repair what deceit has broken. He left, quietly, without drama, as quietly as he had lived his lies. The moral was clear: arrogance and dishonesty may win small battles, but truth, patience, and intelligence always win the war. I didn't celebrate. There was no gloating. Instead, I returned to my life, calm and reflective, grateful for the lesson I had reinforced in both myself and my daughter. Justice had arrived not through confrontation or rage, but through quiet observation and moral clarity. Sometimes I think about that photographer's call and how a single moment of honesty can shift everything. Jonathan never knew the role he played, but his integrity gave me the leverage to act without malice. Life has a strange way of balancing itself when you step back and let it. Linda's strength, her ability to see through deception and make her own choices, is the greatest reward I could have asked for. Michael's departure, though painful, was necessary. And I found peace not in revenge, but in the intelligence to let events reveal the truth. I've learned that quiet justice carries more weight than loud confrontation. Patience, observation, and careful strategy allow the world to correct itself while keeping your conscience clean. There's a satisfaction that comes from knowing that wrongs are righted without sacrificing your own moral integrity. As for Michael, I hope he learned in some corner of his mind that deceit is a fragile thing. And as for Linda, I know she will move forward stronger, wiser, and aware that love and trust must be earned, never assumed. Sometimes silence is the best revenge. Not because it punishes others, but because it preserves your own peace while letting life itself restore the balance. And in that quiet reflective victory, I found more than justice. I found understanding, patience, and the kind of calm that no betrayal can ever take away.